Welcome back to the final session of Chicago Responsible Global Conference 2021. I am really excited to introduce Brandee Dallow to you. Of course, I think a lot of you already know Brandee. She is the new Vice President of Sustainability at SCS Global Services. Before SCS, she was with RJC. She has a long history of deep knowledge, often the most knowledgeable person in the room when it comes to diamonds. She knows a lot, and she's my friend. And she's going to talk to us about SCS's new diamond certification scheme, which is, I know I'm very excited about. So, Brandee, I'm going to bail on the stage. You can get your slides, and I'm here if you need me.
All right, cool.
All right.
Thanks, Andrea. Thanks, Susan. Thanks for everybody who stuck around. I know it's we're getting to Saturday night, so feel free, if anybody wants, pop open your champagne, your wine, your tequila, whatever works for me. I also just wanted to say before I begin that it's been an honor, especially now we've been through the entire conference, and it's been an honor to be here and listen and hear the speakers and the content. I found this to be one of the most interesting conferences I've ever been to. And I love the different levels of conversation that we were able to have and participate in. And I think where I'm tying this all in together is that one of the main things I learned is that, there's different standards out there. There's different ways of doing things. Some standards are for some people. Some standards are for others. Some people have different ways of contributing in whichever way they can to this industry. But the best part about everyone in this room, quote unquote, is that you're all here because you do care about responsibility, and you do care about transparency, and you do care about a better jewelry industry today and in the future. And so I think the key point is that however we get there, and we each do our thing to be there. So I'm going to share my screen now, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about SCS and what we're doing. So give me 1 second. Hang in. Okay. So I believe you should be able to see that now. If you can't, please someone let me know. Okay, so for those who don't know, SCS is actually a pioneer and a leader in the field of sustainability. They've been around for about 40 years. I always like to tell people that the owner, it's still a privately owned company, and the owner, who is in San Francisco, was basically part of the group of individuals way back when that started the organic movement. So he was part of the team that wrote the organic law. And so as the company's grown, it's always sort of used organic as its founding principle. And therefore, it tends to look at standards, and especially this standard, as a nutritional label. Really being transparent about everything that sort of goes into that product. And that, again, comes from the organic nature of how they started this business. So SCS has actually played a key role in the development of some of the world's most impactful and important standards through the years. They also work on certifications and supply chain initiatives, etc. So our work comes across in a multitude of industries, and goes through a lot of different areas, of our world, mainly environmental certification, natural resources, and food and agriculture. And we actually bifurcate our company based on these three things. So as you can see, we work with forest stewardship, we work with marine stewardship. Like I said, we work with organic, sustainably grown. We have a really big practice in indoor air quality, which has been growing tremendously, especially during COVID, as new buildings come up and people are looking to keep those environments safe. And so basically, we're really impacting a lot of areas in the world. Our company is about 300 people. We have our headquarters in North America, like I said, apparently I haven't been there, but with a view of the Golden Gate Bridge, and people all over the world with the top skills, really, again, like you guys, really trying to make a difference and making the world a better place to live in. We too, like many other standards and certification companies, we have sort of a higher law that we have to be audited against. And so that's where ANSI comes in, the American National Standards Institute. They're the ones that look at us and look at what we're doing when we set standards or when we help companies with standards. So basically, I think that adds that, even extra level of transparency that we're being double checked while we double check others. So it's a consistent process there. Our clients, you can see here, they range anywhere from Amazon and Home Depot to Nestle. And then, of course, you'll see Jay's company and Perpetuum Jewels and Starbucks. We actually work with Starbucks on their coffee, coffee to consumer program. So we work with them to ensure that when they tell you that these coffee beans came from X place, that they are telling you the truth. So it's really good work we're doing there. We've also been, for the past 15 years, involved in the jewelry industry. And so these are all the areas that I thought would be of interest to you all that we've hit. So we work with RMI, we work with Fairmind. We are an accredited auditor for the Responsible Jewelry Council. So that means that all of their, I think they said recently, 1,500 members, they have options of who to audit them from a third-party perspective. So we do that. We audit on Signet, their SRSP protocol, LBMA, SMETA, IRMA, etc. And I also add here recycled content and environmentally preferable product, because of course, so many of us are talking about and using recycled material. And so we work with a lot of the companies like Hoover and Strong, for example, to implement best practices when it comes to these things. And you can see our logo. I think someone recently said 150 million bananas or something of that nature. So we are a B2C mark and a recognizable one at that. So basically, as a result of all of these years that we've been working in the jewelry industry, plus consultations with industry stakeholders, we learned about some major issues of concern that were being expressed by the jewelry buying consumer. We've all heard about them. Most of them had to do with the lack of trust and transparency throughout our supply chain. We also found and are aware from our work through 110 different industries that there's growing consumer awareness of issues related to ESG, as well as confusion about claims being made by retailers and by brands that are unsubstantiated in many cases and talk to sustainability. And that's actually why SCS decided to create a new standard for the jewelry industry. It began about 3 years ago when SCS noticed that there were a lot of claims being made in the laboratory-grown diamond space. And there was this whole group of, I think it was 9 or 10 companies that sort of got in the ring, so to speak, and were fighting over what they were saying, what's true and what isn't. And I don't know if you felt this way, but I thought this proliferation of claims really started confusing the consumer about what is a lab-grown diamond, what makes it sustainable, is mining sustainable, are natural diamonds better? I'm not answering any of these questions. I'm looking at all of this like SCS did, which is from a consumer perspective that they deserve to know the truth. And that's really what matters. And we wanted to ensure that whatever claims were being made by any company, being natural or lab grown, could be backed up and certified. So this was a process that the company went through. They began starting the standard with our team and then with stakeholders in 2019 and then spring 2020. So this was really built throughout the pandemic. Took a lot of time, a lot of reviews. We had, I want to say 500 comments, I believe. Don't quote me on that though, but a lot of comments that when we went through the process. And the final standard was finally, I guess let's call it notarized, in June of 2021. And the way it hit the market is it's called SCS 007 Certified Sustainability Rated Diamonds. And it's on the market right now as a pilot. And that basically means, which I've learned in the standards world, that we still are able to adjust it, move it, look at it, work with companies that are getting certified across our supply chain, and ensure that that the standard is fit for the purposes that we want it to be. And so we're right now still in that pilot phase. And I like to tell people that because things are still growing and moving, always getting better, but that's really quite important. One of the main, I guess, things that makes this standard different than other standards out there, and I'll show you this though. But one of the key things is that this is a standard for lab-grown and natural diamonds. There is no other standard right now for natural and lab-grown. So all companies throughout the diamond industry are welcome to volunteer to be certified against this standard. We don't we're not biased in who wants to join. We want all companies to be better. We're also, in addition, we're a product claim, whereas the difference, there's a lot of confusion out there rather in the market about RJC and SCS and what's the difference. RJC certifies companies, their business practices, and their management systems. This standard 007 is about the product. So every single diamond that is certified, and it's the stones, basically will make their way to the market with traceability with a consumer-facing certificate. So those are really important things to let everyone know. We do have an origin to consumer product claim, and I'll get into that very quickly. But yes, so those are the main important things. We do traceability for lab grown and natural as long as we have the producer. And we are a consumer facing claim with certificates. Okay. So what actually is a certified sustainability rated diamond and what makes it special? Well, it's been independently confirmed to be it does follow SCS's standard. And there are these 5 key pillars of our standard. The first is verified origin traceability. The second is climate neutrality. The third is ethical stewardship. The fourth is sustainable production practices. And then the fifth element is sustainability investments. And now I'll jump into these a little bit more. But why I mention that these 5 pillars and that we are a third party is because this is a company that has no vested interest in any part of the jewelry industry. They were built to help companies. They were built to be non-biased. And so basically, I guess I like to say I'm the only one who really kind of buffers that line between industry and SCS. So no one's going to come in and influence the outcome of the audits that our company does or any other company does against this standard. And I think that gives the consumer a lot more confidence in what they're buying than if a company or an industry kind of based organization said, this is what it is. Consumers are looking for that third party assurance. Okay, so the first main thing, as I said, that makes this standard special is this verified origin traceability piece. So we can, by whether a diamond is from a mine or a lab, we do a bunch of checks and balances, random sampling, testing with a company out in the western coast of Australia called Source Certain International. And we are able to use what's called laser ablation. And with some samples that the producer or the miner gives us, we can take a fingerprint of a stone, basically down to identifying the kimberlite pipe or the reactor, both cases, that it comes from. Once we have that fingerprint, we can absolutely identify by 99% accuracy, because nothing's perfect, where the stones come from. So as I mentioned the other day in someone else's presentation, it is possible to trace back. You do need that base stone, again, whether it's from a reactor or whether it's from a mine, but it is absolutely possible. It's just not being done. Okay. The second thing that makes this standard pretty incredible is the sustainable production practices piece of this. And basically what the standard requires companies to do is either fully eliminate or offset environmental and human health aspects from their operations, from their systems. So for natural diamonds, the impacts of the production processes are quantified across various impact categories that you see here on either your left or right side. And it depends on the location and the practices of the companies. It's very interesting, and this was mentioned in the last presentation. Most people think that natural diamond miners would really leave the greatest environmental impact, but that's not necessarily the truth. They're actually very small energy users in a lot of cases. For example, if you look up at the Northwest Territories of Canada, where there are lots of diamonds, really the only kind of thing that's coming out into the environment is that coming out from the trucks that go across those ice roads. Otherwise, they're not really making a tremendous environmental impact. So in that case, you may argue some of the lab growers may have a higher environmental footprint. Point is, it really depends on the individual company, their practices, whether lab grown or mined, and how their individual business practices are affecting the environment. So we also take in regional differences into account. So for example, an energy grid, it's going to be different up in Canada than it will be in Russia or China or India. So when we go in and we ask for companies to be evaluated against all of these impacts, we don't just sort of kind of like put it against our westernized culture or our values. We look at the area in which these companies are doing business, what is possible for them to be doing, and therefore how are they mitigating their risk in their particular areas. The third pillar is ethical stewardship. And businesses who want to be certified against 007 must meet the following 12 principles. And I will read them aloud because they're pretty important. So the first is business integrity. Second is human rights. Third is worker rights. We consider Indigenous people certification. And the standard, you can read about that. It considers occupational health and safety, security, community engagement, stakeholder engagement. How a company is managing its water and its energy resources, what it's doing in terms of minimizing its emissions, its ecosystem protection, and of course, at the end of a mine life or even a lab-grown situation, reclamation and closure of that plant or that mine. So we have extensive protections for the environment in this standard. It follows the strictest laws in each country that a company would get audited in. And it's also been developed with authorities on social and environmental justice. So it's really, really quite a robust standard. And it adds these incredible environmental pieces that also just aren't out there right now in other standards. The company is involved not just with jewelry, but also with many other products and claims with carbon neutrality. And so this standard focuses a lot on a company's impact on climate. We look at what's called an LCA, a life cycle assessment. So we don't just look at a company's current carbon footprint or what they're putting out into the air now, again, whether it be a mine or a lab. We look at what they did in the past and how does a company look back at that and quote unquote fix it. And so there's formulas for all of this, but the main point here to take away is that we believe that a life cycle assessment is critical. You can't just say I'm carbon neutral because of what you're doing today. We really also have to look at the impacts that your company had in the past as well, if we are going to truly help climate change or help our climate become better. Another important piece of this is for every certified sustainably rated diamond that gets rated and certified, a portion of the fees that are involved with the company that is getting certified go to supporting the lives and livelihoods of artisanal and small scale mining communities. And right now, as part of the process, we are creating a foundation that monies go into and will be then disseminated to local communities. And then I love this one. Also, a portion of the funds will go to the Himalayan Brick Kiln Improvement Project. And that's in partnership with the Climate and Clear Air Coalition, the CCAC, and IC Mode. And basically, they seek investments to upgrade brick kilns, which put a ton of black carbon into the air. And what we're trying to do is we're going to jumpstart their efforts to retrofit the first 1,000 of new kilns by 2025. And what we're going to end up doing is taking out so much black carbon out of the atmosphere as a result of this, that the jewelry industry or the diamond industry will actually be able to say, yes, we had an effect, a positive effect on all of the climate issues that we're having right now. So these are wonderful things that companies will be able to share with consumers, and consumers will get to see when they purchase certified sustainably rated diamonds. I just wanted to sort of make sure that we saw all these pieces again, that we do cover natural and lab grown. We've got a lot of different criteria, and these are just a few of the main points. Here's a quick summary about all the things that the standard covers. ESG work. We do accept, by the way, we do accept RJC certification as part of our standard. So companies that are already RJC certified kind of get some of that credit. Our standard then again involves a lot of these other traceability pieces, climate neutrality pieces, impact assessments, et cetera. So that's added to it. But we certainly do have a big ESG piece, and that's important, to mention. And here's really what the key features that make this different than other diamond programs that are sort of in this space. Like I said in the beginning, first, that we do have an on-product certification, so we can, companies that get certified, their diamonds are traced back from the origin, and then they come with a certificate that I'll show you. Ethical stewardship is a key piece, that climate neutrality, the production practices, and we do have this sustainability investments part. So hopefully the consumer who purchases these really has all of the things that they want and need when they're purchasing a diamond. So we like to think of these as premium diamonds. And I kind of, when people ask me to explain that, why do I think that? I look at it like kind of going back to that organic piece, right? This may not be for everyone, but for someone who does care about knowing traceability, knowing where their diamond comes from, knowing that in the way it was mined, the way it was produced, etc. This is sort of that organic banana. You choose this, you're willing to pay that extra 28 cents, that consumer is willing to spend that extra 28 cents to know where it comes from and what it's about. And that's what really makes it that premium product. So it will help at retail differentiate these kinds of stones. Every diamond comes with a certificate, and I'll take you through, there's 3 pages of the certificate. So the diamonds are rated on a scale from 0 to A+, against these 5 pillars of sustainability. And we break them out. We break the ratings out in each of these 2 pages here, and you can see them very, very clearly. So there is nothing being hidden. Every company and every single diamond that a consumer purchases that is a certified sustainably rated diamond will have all of this information. So a consumer has 100% view into everything they want to know about this product and what it took to bring it to them at the market. We also talk about source certain and how they do this. Okay. And finally, so that we don't bombard the consumer with 100 different certificates, we do this, the standard does match up at a certain point at the grading lab. And so, as you can see here, we do have accredited GEM laboratories. Right now, IGI and GCAL are accredited, and GSI is on its way. And what happens is, once we go through the all of the systematic pieces, we go in with their APIs so that the certificate travels with the diamond. And then, as you can see on the bottom left here or bottom right, every diamond comes also with this QR code that a consumer can scan and see all of the information I'm showing you here. And so this would be a IGI certificate indicating this is a certified sustainably rated diamond. And here is a GCAL certificate as well. So again, repeating, this is just another way for the consumer to have a total view on everything that they kind of need to know about this product. Finally, we are making all of this information available on a consumer-facing website called sustainablyrateddiamonds.com. So at the retail level, a consumer basically gets a code and a report number for their diamond. They can plug it in and they can find out all of this information just like that. I should say that it does take about 2 years for a company, a producer, or a miner to get certified against this standard because of all of the work that they have to do. It is, of course, voluntary. So a company must be willing to or must have values within that company that include all these issues about climate and include all the ESG things I said. And so we're very proud of the companies that have thus far been certified against this process. And we are encouraging companies to come in, of course, and join us. I will be honest that the companies that have come in thus far to be a part of this program are lab-grown companies. So WD is one of them. Green Rocks is one of them. We have about 5 to 8 others, or maybe it's 10 in the pipeline. So consumers can already purchase certified sustainably rated diamonds from retailers that are a part of this program. Retailers like Fair Trade Jewelry Company and Brilliant Earth. And so hopefully we will have more of that, where we have these kind of mine to market programs where the miners and the growers are getting certified, speaking about this, and then the retailers or designers like yourselves as well can be selling these stones. So I'm going to end the presentation portion of that right now, and I'll stop sharing my screen. And let's see if we have questions here. So let me just give me a second. I will look at the questions. Okay, so Sean, how does SCS Certified Diamonds guarantee a diamond has not funded government forces and human rights violations? Well, like I said, an organization, a mine must, in order to be certified, they must get passed and be audited against an entire new standard that is publicly available, by the way. I can show that to you. So all of the companies are audited on the ground, whether they're lab grown or mined. Like I said, I need a mine to come in, and then I can tell you how the standard will affect the human rights on the ground. So again, as we're moving, it's still a young standard and a young certification. Hopefully we will be able to have an impact on those things when mines decide that they do want to, include this in their work. Jewelers claim diamonds that are KP certified are conflict free. Even the KP doesn't ban diamonds that fund regimes guilty of human rights violations. Yeah, it's a really tough thing. The Kimberley process has its issues. I mean, I've been following along with you guys. I listen to what Shimiso says about the fact that the KP really needs to change. I agree with that very much so. This standard goes above and beyond what the Kimberley process can do and does. It's also not based on governments agreeing on what it says. This is about companies volunteering to do the right thing, incorporating those things into their corporate culture. And like I said, goes way beyond what the KP does. That's only one piece of all of this. How much of the carbon neutrality aspect is based on offsets? It's company specific. So we evaluate with particular companies what they're doing. And there is a program, the environmentalists behind this and the scientists and the environment and the engineers have developed a system where we can identify with the grower or the miner how much they're affecting and therefore how many offsets they have to purchase. And we help them make those purchases as well. And as you can see with the Brick Kiln project, a lot of monies are going into that being a good offset program. Martin wants to know, where did the 007 moniker come from? I think only you can guess that. I've actually never seen a Bond movie, so I just get a kick out of the fact that it's called 007. But we'd have to ask the writers of this standard why. I kind of love it. I think it's cool. And then finally, Stuart, when will this be available for other gemstones? So we are in the process now of beginning those consultations and those conversations about gemstones. So what I want to do is ask you all to please keep your eyes and ears open and please participate in this process. One of the other lessons that I took away, which I think was just amazing, is there is not one one size fits all solution for any single mine, especially in the artisanal communities. And so I truly hope that whether it's the Marang Women's Association or the Tanzania Women's Mining Association, or what Brian's working on, or Stuart, all the work that you guys are doing, participate in this so that we can do the best we possibly can to include and make it work and feasible to help people on the ground. The objective is to cause no harm. And so your help in the future as we start building that portion will be tremendously useful. And I really hope that you will do that. There are more questions higher up in the chat box. Okay, let's go. Let's see. Sorry, forgive me. Let's see. Will, I'm not sure I understand your question, but I would love to I think it's an important one. So, Andrea, is there any way we can kind of get Will to?
Yeah, let me. And I realized I typed to you that there were more in the chat box, but there were actually more in the Q&A box. So I misled you.
Okay, sorry.
From Anna, while I get to Will. Let's see.
Okay. I love the system, but I can't. I'm trying to see where everything is.
I can lob some questions at you.
Sure.
Let's see. I know Anna's question was, how much of the carbon neutrality aspect is based on offsets or purchased credits versus more direct action?
Yeah, that's what I was just saying, is it's really company specific at this point. So I think companies that are just, I have a company right now that I'm working with that is literally going to set up their growing facilities according to the standard. And so they're going to go at the bat, really making sure that they're using solar power and renewable energy and hydro powered water, et cetera. Companies that already have been in existence are probably going to need to, to buy more offsets because of the environmental impacts they've already had. But the takeaway here is that it's really specific to the company, the business, and how it's affected the environment. If you want to know more specifics on that kind of stuff, let's just definitely be in touch on the side. And I'm always happy to put you in touch with, our scientists and our the folks, who have developed all of these programs.
Will, you can clarify in the chat if you like. I think it's funny. I think I understand Will's question. At one point, you had mentioned that the strictest laws of a country that a company is doing business in, and sort of pointed to the fact that there are different needs in each country, also different levels of strictness of laws. Some of them are not nearly as strict as we would like. Some of them do a good job of acknowledging the reality of the people working there. I think Will's question speaks more to artisanal mines even than the large scale mines. But how do you juggle that in creating a brand new standard?
And I think that's, Will, I'm going to be very, very frank in that I think as we create this, as we sort of redesign or add rather, especially the ASM piece that will be for gemstones, they really are going to have to consider, and they recognize this, what is happening in very, very particular areas. The idea is not to come in like a westernized company and say, we want to fix everything that is absolutely impossible to fix. That is not the goal. So we are going to work alongside and really try and not give anything that, that we feel is harmful, or, we really want to look very, very specific at each mine, at each participant that wants to be a part of this, and see how we can help within the boundaries of their ability to do business. There are certain things that are just won't ever be acceptable, in this standard, of course, no matter what.
Yeah. I remember a conversation I had with Stanley Marathon when he was first talking about the standard. He was like, it's not perfect, but we've got to start somewhere.
No, right. Exactly.
And then,
we talk about that a lot. And it's interesting because, there is that saying about don't let something be the energy, the whatever. Anyway, yes, nothing is perfect. Everything is evolving, just like our journey to being more responsible companies and an overall more responsible business. And I used to say this earlier when I first got into this, you got to hop on at some point. You got to get on the journey. You have to, and also one of the, I think also important things is, for the companies that volunteer to do work against a standard like this, they're also changing or adapting their corporate cultures inside as well. Because when you're putting a big standard, a big robust standard like this into place, you need buy-in on so many different levels of your business. And so it really does take, you cannot do this lightly. It does take people with hearts who want to make a change, who want to make a difference. And so I've seen changes to the businesses that have already become certified, and they're working together. And it's really, really impactful to see inside.
It is. And there's something else that I don't know. We tend to focus more on the small end of the business sizes in the industry in this conference. So if you haven't been inside an RJ certified type company, what you don't realize is it takes a huge investment and staff to get the certification.
Yeah.
Once the certification's in place, you've got this passionate little group of stakeholders that have a certification that they have been entrusted to maintain, and they have power within that organization. And then without having to go back to the CEO every time, they influence the purchasing department with policy.
Yes.
And that's powerful. Once you get the certification inside the company with that cultural change Brandee's discussing, change is managed from inside, not necessarily in the executive suite, because it doesn't usually happen as well up there.
Yeah.
So, okay, Monica wants to know, Monica Stevenson, are there any natural diamond companies in the work for this certification?
So Monica, the answer is not yet. I hope you know me, and I am pushing the heck out of this. So, I'm looking, trying, talking. And by the way, also have started sort of talking to some of the indigenous communities around some of the areas to see if they can influence some of the mining companies to become a part of this. Sorry, going a roundabout way. Everything that we talked about yesterday with the spill in the DRC and the mining companies that were involved, this standard will make a huge difference, but I need them to participate. I'm not picking one company out, but we need these companies to participate voluntarily in order for these changes to take place. So I guess from all of you, it's almost like we need that movement. We need that push. We can't accept the norm anymore. We have to say to whether producers and miners, this is not okay anymore. And that's what it's going to take to get this full traceability.
And when a natural diamond company comes on board, we've seen it happen in the lab grown community. So once WD and Ochre, Green Rock,
yep.
Then the rest of the lab grown companies are starting to think, oh God, now that puts some pressure on the rest of us. We can get that if we can get a natural or a mine diamond company in there too.
Absolutely. Yep.
Susan Crow wants to know if companies need to recertify every year.
Companies get looked at, audited, I think on a yearly basis, and we do audits on the traceability piece, but the certification itself lasts for 3 years.
Okay, so full recertification every 3 years with an audit from audits in.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yep. And I should say, by the way, because again, we just came out. So it came out in June. We sort of announced it at JCK. And so all these things are sort of still processing and developing.
Yep. Jennifer Hall says, this is very impressive. Thank you. Would it not be further improved by looking at how the revenues along the production process are used? For example, if profits from the diamond trade are invested in arms, then this has human rights and environmental impacts. So she's going after the finances, which we did talk about yesterday.
Yes. Yeah. Well, one would also think that if we are able to really begin traceability and tracing back, then one could think that we will start keeping those stones out of the hands of people who we don't want them in, who are going to use diamonds in a really negative way, or gemstones. And that's also part of why traceability is so important. I think.
Sean Clinton asked another question that's, I guess, sort of related. If diamonds downstream of the mining sector are funding human rights violations, how could SCS ensure? Actually, I'm not sure how you answer this. How would you ensure that they are not certified?
So you're asking, how do we
Processes?
kind of like, I think maybe you're asking, how do we know that a diamond isn't being sold, that isn't SCS certified, is being sold as such? Kind of misrepresented, perhaps? Is that what we're going for here?
Drop a clarification in the chat box.
The thing is about the traceability piece is it starts at, we do take that footprint. It starts at that producer or mine level, and it goes along with that certificate through the system. It does not have a blockchain, but it does have the auditing, that third-party auditing system. So the stones are constantly being checked, and for the companies that are involved, it's really this partnership that goes literally from reactor to finger, or hopefully mine to finger.
Stuart Poole didn't pose this as a question, but I grabbed it from the chats anyway. He was expressing curiosity about the costs of auditing on the ground.
Yeah, look, it's I'm not going to lie, and I think that's a great question, Stuart. Auditing's expensive. It is, and to give credit to the folks who have volunteered to put this standard into place and get certified, they are paying to do it. No one's telling them they have to. And so I think, yes, auditing costs money. Of course it does. And so does the effort to become climate neutral or traceable, et cetera. So it is not for, let's say, the faint of heart. But certainly, and we're doing our best, by the way, I've seen it. We're doing our best to ensure that companies that want to get on this, find a way.
I think I understand more the nature of the question. It was being asked by Sean, Monica, Sabrina, they're all touching on it. Mm-hmm. So you're using a fingerprint of these diamonds to identify where they came from. But a lot of those diamonds are already in the supply chain. So how do we cover that gap? Maybe a diamond, because we're looking back on their carbon neutrality.
Right.
What if they were abusing some aspect of our principles back then, and those diamonds
are still out there?
How do we?
Well, I think, it's a great question. And I want to go back to what I said about it being a choice. I truly believe that a consumer shopping has a choice. We don't have to hide at that B2C level and say, well, we can't identify anywhere else. It's a particular person who's going to say, I care about this, and therefore will want one of these stones that can prove it. We can't clean up what's already out there. I wish we could. That would be wonderful. And we certainly have a lot of cleaning up to do. But, the consumer will make those calls. Maybe they'll choose one day not to buy stones that they don't know because they have so much knowledge of the ones, that do have these certifications. But I think the consumer has that choice.
But the diamond to be certified will have to come from where? From the mine to you? From the cutter to you?
So it starts at the mine level. And a lot of, right now, the producers that are in it are all vertically integrated. So we can follow from the mine or from the lab to the cutter and all the way through the stream. What's going to happen when a miner comes in? To be honest, I think let's stay tuned and let's see. That's part of the reason, I said earlier, this is a pilot. So, we're going to have to put some things in action and see how that works and make improvements.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure you guys worked, the WD's certification, the lab grown certified, they did it as an active beta, didn't they? And you guys worked through a lot of the issues around certification by taking them through the process. So I think that's what Brandee's trying to express to everybody is you have to have somebody in the process to unearth all of the problems with the process to figure out how to finalize the certification.
Yeah. You have to want, I think that's really a huge piece. We can't create people, we can't give them morals or values. We can't, so this, any standard is volunteer. You have to have people who want to do this. It's not easy, but it's worth it if you care. And I think especially like a WD and a Green Rocks who came along right away, they had some systems. They definitely had some systems in place, but they were eager to learn, how do I offset? Where is the right place to offset? How do I, use my money properly? So I am making the right choices there. How do I determine my legacy footprint? That's not something that comes, you have in your back pocket. So SCS certainly, as a company that's been doing this for 39 years, is there to help as well. On that note, though, I should say there is a standards development organization because SCS is a for-profit company. So we do separate. There is a separate auditing division. There is a church and state. And apparently this is very, in a lot of these sustainability and standards kind of companies, that's how it works.
Okay, cool.
Not an NGO.
So I would say from this conference's participants back to SES, the question in all of this that I think we would encourage SCS to grapple with and start figuring out how to answer is what to do about the diamonds that are already in the supply chain. There are deficiencies in blockchain. But the fingerprint is interesting, but it represents an opportunity for some other difficult gaps.
Absolutely. So, I actually, I said to one of the R&D guys the other day, I was like, just hypothetically, if I got a big bag of diamonds and I gave it to you, can you figure it out? And the reality is you still need that base stone. You still need that stone from Diavik or Ikati or, or a Russian mine or a Botswanan mine. You still need that piece to base everything off of. So yes, feasibly, if we have those, those main stones, the main DNA, then yeah, you could do anything. But that's the only way to do it. You can't skip a step.
So, and Sabrina's saying wanting and being able to in a market as a smaller person are two different things. I think what Brandee's saying is at these big corporate levels, they have to want to do this. So there has to be intention. Nobody's going to go after a certification this expensive and this extensive without intention. And so,
or the values.
Values.
Yeah.
So I don't think she was speaking to the small designers in the room. I think she was saying we need to get that mining diamond company on board. Yeah. Actually has a desire to do this, like WD did on the front side.
What I want to say actually to the smaller designers about how to get involved is really, so part of this is at your level, if you're selling to the consumer or even if you're selling to a retailer, there is an attestation portion of this at that level. So in order to be able to sell these stones, you fill out an attestation. So we make sure that the person who's going to the consumer is also in this, wants to do it. So I guess my point is join us and ask the company, are you selling these kinds of diamonds? And where do I get them? And how do I get them? And be a part of this, if you'd like. You have the choice. You could choose to purchase stones like this.
Was there, I'm trying to remember all of this in your slides, was there a piece of the certification that looks at human rights abuses as well?
It does. It's in those, yes, it's in the standard. And by the way, the standard is public. So I can maybe even send it out through you guys after. But yes, there is absolutely a human rights part. So right now, for example, for a lab grower, right, the human rights are going to be what goes on. Are they getting paid the right wages? Is there any, child labor involved? Those kinds of things. Mines will have similar, but certainly different things that, we'll have to look at.
Okay. All right. Any other questions coming in? Let's see that we haven't already covered in some.
So, yeah, I think standards just overall, I think standards are really good options, and especially a third party one, because then that's much more, we talked about opaqueness here, and it's much more transparent when you have a third party. But I do also think, the point to learn is that standards are voluntary, so you still have to have a group of folks like in this room wanting to put them in place. We can't force people to do it.
And asking hard questions and pushing the needle. There's been tremendous pressure on the Kimberly process to improve. RJC is responding to pressure to improve.
Absolutely. It's always continuous improvement. Iris always said that, and I from RJC, and I did always love and respect that line, that this is about continuous improvement, no matter where you are, wherever you're starting or wherever you're at in this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Brandee, thank you very much. It was
thank you guys.
Exciting to have a diamond standard. So I just cannot wait to watch the ongoing development of it.
Yes, and, be a part of it, people, please.
Yep, it was a missing piece. So we'll just keep plugging the dike, right, until we get it right.
Yeah. And Andrea and Susan, thank you both for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely, our delight. Susan, why don't you come back up on stage and let's. I
don't know how I get out.
You'll actually have to close your screen, Brandee. You're
okay.
Out with us. You're welcome to hang out with me and Susan.
All right.
Brandee, please hang out.
I'm hanging out. I'm gonna go get my drink. I think
we're not all hanging out together.
I know. Soon.
Hey, Susan, how do I get yours?
Cheers, ladies.
Oh, see, you're already drinking. That's so wrong. There we go.
It is so wrong.
She's earned it.
Now, I've had more problems with size. We're all the same size. This was like all weird screen stuff, people. That was me, like doing weird stuff. I couldn't fix it. Anyway, so we're wrapping up. We're wrapping up with something new, something positive, a new certification that's addressing a gap. Not perfect yet, but it exists, and people have spent a bunch of money trying to make it exist. We can go from here. And I think that's a really positive note to land on, isn't it, Ava?
Yeah, it was really good, Brandee. And Brandee and I have had lots of conversations about this and areas to implement it, and hearing the presentation around diamonds was really helpful. It's really good. So it is a good positive way to end it. We've had conversations about assessments. We've had conversations about natural diamonds, and so you really tied a lot of it in for us.
Yeah, no, that was great, and I think the ability to learn from everyone in your comments throughout these past couple of days really brought a lot of clarity as well.
Let me email all the comments to Stanley.
Sure,
I'd be happy to.
Yes, please.
All right, yeah. I'll grab that. I found out I could get this comment, so now I will just send them along.
All right. Well, I'll let you guys close out.
Bye, Brandee. Take care.
Brandee.